Welcome back to Picks from the Sticks. This is Garrett, and I'm here with Brent. Brent, how are you doing?
Doing good. Happy to be back for another week of horse racing. This is our third straight week in a row now, covering all the ponies.
Yes, sir. Well, we lost Joe, but we are going to add him back next week. So we're back down to just us two. But when we did have Joe last week, when we were together, we put together a pick five at Churchill, and we hit. We are 1 for 1 on pick fives.
How awesome is that? Dunbar Road started us off, the big favorite. Maybe could have singled her to save some money, but she dominated. And then, of course, my favorite pick, Owendale, came storming home.
Storming down the stretch.
And that was awesome. I love that horse. So that was definitely the highlight of the pick five for me.
Definitely.
All 5 races, we were all over.
We netted like $350, I think, on that. And make sure when we put these out that you follow us on Twitter. I try to post replays and follow along the ticket throughout the day. So check that out. So we got the 3 tracks that we normally go over, Churchill, Gulfstream, and Santa Anita. They're both running this weekend, but really Santa Anita and Gulfstream don't really have much going on there. We're going to stick with Churchill again this weekend. We have yet another $500,000 guaranteed pick 5 that we are going to pick on. We're going to try to go back-to-back. Brent, can we do it?
This one's tricky. We don't have all stakes races this week.
No stakes to pick. 2 stakes, but not good ones.
A couple ones we're going to have to try to dig deep, try to figure out some horses we're not as familiar with. But that's the whole point of handicapping, trying to be able to, still be able to identify winners without spending a ton of time watching replays, just going through the past performances. Yep. I really enjoy watching replays. I think that's one of the best attributes that I do as a handicapper is being able to familiarize myself with a horse. But just going through the past performances, we'll see how we do.
And when you have wide open races like this, typically somebody's going to come through that you might have on the ticket that's a longer shot, and that's going to up the payout on your pick 5 by a whole lot more than $350 that we netted last week. You can get up into the multi-thousands on pick 5s if you have long shots come through. So wide open races look good for some handicappers if you get lucky. Big payouts.
Yeah, the key really is identifying which favorites you like and which favorites are vulnerable. Being able to just pick a couple horses or even single in some races and then be able to spread out of the field and get some longer shots on different races. That's really the key to betting these multi-race wagers. So that's what we're going to try to do.
Yes, we are. So we're going to go out to Churchill. First race is at 1, but the first 6 races, there's not much to play there. You can if you want. The pick 5 starts at race 7. I think it's going off around 4 o'clock. I think, Brent, does you have the program up? It's going off around 4 o'clock. So that's when our picks will start for the pick 5, and it runs the last 5 races of the day. 500,000 guaranteed. So that means if the pool doesn't reach 500,000, Churchill covers the rest. So the guaranteed payout's at least $500,000 between all the winners. So starting with the first leg, race 7. Is a stakes race. It is the Winning Color Stakes for $100,000. It's for 4-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. It's 6 furlongs on dirt, a 9-horse field. In our very first episode, kind of went through and how I pick out horses to put on. I kind of eliminate who I think will not even be in the mix, and I really only have one for this race. I think the 5 Unique Factor, pretty significant class jump for her, probably won't be in the mix with these horses. So, Brent, I'm looking at about a 3-horse race here. You can throw in another contender if you want after I'm done, but the 8, Mia Mischief, the 2, Break Even, and the 7, Spice Perfection. These are my 3. These 3 will get most of the money, deservingly so. They'll be the top 3 favorites. I'll start out with Mia Mischief and Spice Perfection, the 7 and 8. They've faced off before. At Keeneland last year in the fall meet in the Thoroughbred Club America Stakes. Spice Perfection had a real awkward start. She was the 3 in this video. She ended up rallying from last to first down the stretch to catch Mia Mischief, who was kind of up in the front of the pack for the whole race. Caught her. But since that race, Mia Mischief hasn't lost. She's 3 for 3, 2 for 2 in 2020. They're all at 6 furlongs, all at the same distance for this race. And the 9 horse actually was in that last race at Oaklawn. So the 9 you can kind of push towards the bottom as well. She also loves Churchill Downs. She's been in the money in 7 out of 8 lifetime races at Churchill. I think definitely a lock for this pick 5. And back to Spice Perfection, the 7. She's only run 1 race in 2020. She rallied way wide the entire turn and got ran down at the end, kind of ran out of gas. Too dangerous to leave off this ticket, having already beat Mia Mischief last year, at the end of last year. The third one that I would add is the 2. Just kind of little dangerous not to leave off. Bumped up to a grade 2 in her 7th race after rattling off 6 straight career wins. Started out 2020 with kind of a stinker of a race. Followed that up with her fastest speed figure ever at Oaklawn in April. I know she's moving up since her last race, but no way I'm leaving her off. I know it was a lot, but those are my 3. That was my breakdown.
Yeah, a lot to discuss there. Those 3 are clearly the 3 best horses in the field on paper. There's no doubt about it. No other horse will probably be in the single digits when this race goes off. The 2 that I like the most are definitely Mia Mischief and Spice Perfection. Mia Mischief has just done it consistently throughout her career. Yeah. But that one race you talked about where she did lose to Spice Perfection, even after Spice Perfection did not have a great trip.
Yeah.
That shows that maybe Mia Mischief is just not as good as Spice Perfection when Spice Perfection is at her best. And that is something. Spice Perfection is all over the place. Sometimes she runs really well. Sometimes she's not on the board at all.
Yeah.
She's an inconsistent horse, but that's one that I would not want to take a chance against in the first race. Those 2, you have to include. The only reason that I would agree with you on the 2, because she's definitely my 3rd choice, but this is just a 6 furlong sprint on the dirt, and breaks well. And she likes to go straight to the lead and hold the lead.
This is probably your pace setter right here.
Yeah, in short races like this, if she gets loose on the lead and nobody else challenges her, she's able to set her own comfortable fractions. She could kick home and have enough in the tank to hold off both Mia Mischief and Spice Perfection. If she had a different running style, I would not be into betting her.
Yeah.
But the fact that she's going to be leading for the majority of the race, I think even though there's a lot of question marks with this horse, and I definitely would not bet this price. If she goes off 9-5, I would not bet a win. I would not bet a win or place or a show on this horse. But in a multi-race wager, I'll take the pace setter. It's proven that she likes to win. She's won 7 out of her 9 career races.
If you like trends, if you look at the 7, if you look at her past performances, Spice Perfection, since December of 18, she has won every other race she's been in, and she lost in her last one.
And this is
this is at every other. So if you
like that goes back like 8 races. So this is not just
it goes back to the end of 2018 with some races thrown in there. So yeah, if you like trends, something to look at. So our pick 5, first leg, 2, 7, and 8.
So we're starting it out pretty conservative, taking all 3 of the favorites. This should be definitely a hit. You don't like to use all 3, but I think all 3 have enough quality, and none of them stand head and shoulders above the rest.
No.
Might as well.
You don't want to go out in the first race.
Yeah, might as well play it safe there.
All right, moving on to race 8. Definitely not a class that I like to play at all. It's maidens. If you don't know what maidens are, they've never won. It's a very large maiden field too. How many horses we got in this one? 12 with some also
a full field. Yeah, we've got a full field and 4 more that want to draw into the race. So we're going to have a full field of 12 regardless.
For sure. Maiden special weight, $79,000. It's for 3-year-olds and up, 1.16 miles on dirt. So my non-factors in this one, you can kind of pull your program up if you want, but I have the 1, the 2, the 4, the 5, and the 10 are just kind of out of the race. You can pull up your past performance to see why. Large maiden fields, it's definitely something I normally stay away with, but it's in this pick 5, so I have to take it. Gonna rely on you, Brent, a little bit for this one, but I'm gonna put the obvious 2 on there, probably the 9 and the 7. I'm going to lock in. Those are your top. Those are Bear Alley and how do you pronounce it? Well, how would you pronounce them? Ashiam?
Yeah, Ashiam.
We'll go with all right. They're the only 2 that have sniffed a win besides the 8, and the 8's making a big class jump. So I'm just going to be real chalky here and put the 7 and the 9. What you got?
Yeah, you want to include those two. Bear Alley, the 7 horse, has run second in each of his last 2 races. So he's right there, has had a chance to break his maiden, both of his 2 most recent races. And then the other horse, Ashiham, the 9, ran second in his last race, had a poor first race, but added a little bit distance, got up to 7 furlongs. Now is going up to, this race is over a mile.
Yep. Lengthening it even longer.
Yeah, mile and 16th. So if this 9 horse likes the distance, should be the pick.
Yeah, ranks first in closing speed, and you can see in the races it definitely likes to run at the end.
Yeah, that's what is bred out of a tappet, which that's what the tappets like to do. They like to run long distances and make up ground at the end. One of the more notable tappets running right now is Tacitus, a 4-year-old who ran 3rd in the Derby, one of the big favorites.
Yep.
He likes to run from behind. He also ran 2nd in the Belmont last year at a 1.5 miles. So that's the tappets for you. They like this extra distance. So it makes sense why the 9 is the favorite. But Bear Alley has definitely proven that he deserves to be right up there. Has run 2nd twice at long distances, so is already comfortable there. If no other horse really takes a step up, Bear Alley would be the one to beat. But another horse that I would like to use, because you want to find a price, especially in a maiden like this.
Yep.
Try to make this a money-making ticket. I would use the 6, What a Country. What a Country not really performed well in his first 3 races, but racing against much higher quality fields.
Much higher.
Than this one. He was racing at a maiden special weight, 87,000, then special weight 60,000 and 60,000. And so now dropping down here.
Dropping down lowest he's ever been. So decent workouts along the bottom there. His first race was actually his best race ever, but he's improved where he finishes in each race each time he comes down as far as lengths off the winner. So definitely looking for improvement there. And 2 of those first races were in sloppy conditions. So turning back the race a little bit by a half furlong there. So definitely one you want to throw on to try to get a bigger winning ticket, because we've picked pretty much all favorites so far.
Yeah, you want to make it pay. That's a horse that you would like to use. Another one that I'll touch on real briefly, the 15, Tonal Totalitarian. I've seen him run before. He's another really good horse, but he has really good breeding, and you'd think he'd be good. He's just broke terribly. In his 3 career races, all 3 of them, they say he's off slow. Just cannot figure out how to start out of the starting gate. Always gets himself way behind the field, makes up ground. But if he gets into the field and breaks well, he definitely could win this race. He'd one I would probably use if he draws into the field.
Mm-hmm.
But at the 15, he would need 3 scratches to get in, so it's unlikely. But Tonal Totalitarian is a horse that maybe look for the future if he doesn't draw into this race and his next race.
All right, moving on to the 9, another big field of 12 horses. We do have a little special circumstance in the 1 slot. Got a 1 and 1A horse. You got, typically it's the same owners entered 2 horses, and I thought they always got a discount on the second one, but they put them in as 1 and 1A instead of 2 different numbers like that. So when you bet them, you get both. You don't just get one or the other. When you bet the 1, you get both the 1 and the 1A. So that when you see that on program, that's what that means.
It's a coupled entry. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad from a betting standpoint. In this instance, neither horse is really all that. Neither of them stand out above the other one. They're both kind of the same level horse.
Yep.
So, it's maybe you take a shot you get 2 darts instead of just 1.
Right, especially when you're picking a field and a pick 5, you're just picking winners. Definitely something to throw out there. You get 2 for the price of 1 on your ticket.
Yeah.
This is an allowance race, 83,000. It's for 3-year-olds and up. Fillies and mares, 5.5 furlongs on turf. I don't see that race a ton. And another 12-horse field in this one with quite a few also eligibles and even a main track entry if this gets moved off the turf. We tried to kind of narrow this one down to 3. Again, in this one, we're gonna do what we just said. We're gonna put the 2 1 horses on there. The 1 Queen of Shades has had some decent performances, moving up in class a little bit, but knows how to be in front of the race, and those aren't some terrible times there or workouts from her. The 1A, not so much, but hey, if she comes through, you're going to win quite a bit if you win that pick 5 ticket.
Yeah, and the 1A, I think is at least showed something in her last race. Came in 3rd place against some pretty quality horses. So maybe if she can continue that momentum, she'll have a chance.
Then Joe, we talked to him before we came on here. We were able to talk to him for a little bit. He liked the 8 Cardamom. Won her last race out at 6 furlongs in the slop. So this is her first turf race. Ran her best speed figures ever. Ran a 1:10 6 furlong. It's hard to got a hot jockey and hot trainer. Pioneer the Nile sired horse. So I can't leave the 8 off here. And 8-1 morning line. That's a pretty good price.
Yeah, the biggest question marks for sure, jumping up in class, racing against better horses, and the switch to turf.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an odd decision given that she just absolutely dominated her last dirt race, but it was on a sloppy track. So maybe that had something to do with it. Cardamom is a horse that I definitely am excited for. Obviously, there's question marks with that horse, but that would be my pick in this race and one that we're going to use.
And if there does happen to be a scratch, Brent, I think one of the also eligible is the 13 you were looking at, Hidden Facts.
Yeah, the 13 Hidden Facts is another horse. I think the 13 and the 8 would be my 2 favorite horses in this race. She's run well pretty much throughout. Struggled at the beginning of this year, but that was in 2 stakes races. So clearly she's a step below stakes quality horses, but in these allowance races has always been right there. In allowance races, she's gotten a 1st place, a 2nd place, and a 3rd place. So she's always been on the board in allowance races. I think that she matches up really well against this field overall.
So out of the current field, we only put 2 since you get 1 entry for the 1 and the 1A. If the 13 gets in there, definitely put them on your pick 5. But if you want to throw a 3rd horse on there, if there are no scratches, go ahead. It's not going to kill your ticket that much. We've already done the math. So you can put a 3rd on there.
And one thing you can do as well, you can just bet the 13 even before any scratches. And if the 13 doesn't draw into the field, you will get the post-time favorite. So whether that is, which will probably be neither of the horses we're using, whether that is the 11, Dixie and Candyland at 9-2 morning line, or the 6, Bingwa at 3-1 morning line, you'll get whichever one of those the betting public likes if the 13 doesn't draw into the field. So at least you'll have another base covered.
You'll probably get the 6. So this is one of those races where this is probably the first favorite we didn't take. So this is where your money making is starting to pile up in the pick 5 if some of these non-favorites come through. Good with the race 9 there, Brent?
Yeah.
All right, moving on to race 10. It is also an $83,000 allowance. It's for 3-year-olds and up. It's 1 mile and 16 switching to dirt. I think this is out of the allowance and maidens. This is the highest class race we have outside of the stakes. And we're going to kind of save some money here. We got a couple good horses in this one. We have the 7 and the 10 that we're going to put on there. Keep it at 2 horses. My program is not loading.
Yeah, this is a really fun field because these are for on the dirt, 4-year-olds and up. Colts and
That's right.
So, I mean, these are horses that you may have heard of before that have raced in big races or are trying to move up into the top flight of like one of the more prominent divisions. So these are some fun horses. I mean, the first one, name recognition wise, is the 4-horse Plus Que Parfait. He raced in the Derby last year.
Mm-hmm.
Did not run all that well. Hasn't really run well. Not one I'm going to use in this race, but definitely one that you hope takes some money just off name alone and gets bet down and gives your other horses a chance to rise up get a better price on. And the first one that we'll have to talk about is the number 7, Fearless.
For sure. Probably your morning line favorite. 7. He raced 3 times so far in 2020. Won his first race out, smoked everybody in a $25,000 allowance. Moved up to a grade 2 at the New Orleans Classic. Ran against By My Standards, pretty good horse. Ran 6th, but that's pretty high class for him. Came back down, ran a $40,000 claim. Ran 2nd. To Dump. Was the betting favorite in that one, though. I did not watch that replay. It says steered out. Just missed a win there. So definitely one.
That's the thing in his last 2 races has come from off the pace. Tried to make a late rally and just hasn't had enough time and space to catch the top horses.
Way off the pace. I mean, it's a Pletcher horse. You can't go wrong with a Pletcher horse in here. And then the second one we were going to add is the 10, Gunnet, who has ran 3 straight graded stakes and is dropping back down into an allowance. Was also in that New Orleans Classic, ran 7th. Fought Ryder. That doesn't sound like a good description. I need to go back and watch that replay.
Yeah, he just never really settled in.
Yeah.
So he wasn't comfortable with his position.
Went wide on turns, it looks
and just
like.
Didn't really run.
No,
definitely didn't run his race.
No. But in races before that, a 2nd, a 3rd, and a couple graded stakes.
And another thing I like to look at is who he's lost to and what they've done since then. Warriors Charge, Silver Dust, and By My Standards have won each of the last 4 races, where in 3 of those races he placed in the money. Warriors Charge went back to run 2nd in a graded stakes not too long ago, just behind By My Standards. Those 2 ran 1-2 in a really good stakes race at Oaklawn Park on Arkansas Derby Day. And then Silver Dust was one of the horses that we covered last week. He ran 3rd to Owendale in that stakes race behind Owendale and Everfast. So each of those 3 horses, Warriors Charge, Silver Dust, and By My Standards, have all come back since they beat Gunnet to run really well and beat other quality horses. So I think that obviously proves that Gunnet's lost to some quality horses this year.
Yep.
And so it's nothing to take away from that. He hasn't won a race in a while because he's been beaten by really top horses.
It's probably his weakest field that he's ran against in a while.
Yeah.
Another Tappet horse as well. I don't see much of anything else in this race. Probably a 2-horse race there.
Yeah, the 8 is another horse that you have to watch out for just because he's so lightly raced. He's 4 years old. He didn't even run until this year. So didn't run. Most horses run as a 2-year-old or even early 3-year-old. I mean, once you're past 3 years old, you can't run in the Derby or the Preakness, the Belmont, the Triple Crown. So he didn't even start racing until after he missed his chance at all that. So definitely a horse that is still trying to figure out how to race just 3 races into his life. But Fearless is almost the same way. Fearless is another really lightly raced 4-year-old. He's only raced 4 career times, whereas some of these other horses have run multiple, double-digit races. Pretty much every other horse in the field has. So those 2 are the unproven horses.
Mm-hmm.
But
Top Seed's been down in Florida. He's coming up to Kentucky with the big boys.
Yeah, I don't want to use him. I want to use Fearless and Gunnet for sure. I would just say that's the one you have to worry about, but you can't bet them all.
Correct, unless you have a lot of money sitting around. All right, the 11th race, our 5th and final leg of the Pick 5. We have another stakes race. It is the Old Forester Mint Julep. It is for fillies and mares, 4-year-old and up. It's 1.16 on turf. This is probably, I would say, the most talent we have in our Pick 5. That first stakes was pretty good, but this one's pretty loaded. With a lot of these stakes race with turf horses, you get quite a few foreign horses. They love to run on grass over there. So some of these we're going to use, if they have an abbreviation after their name, that would be the country that they come from. GB, being Great Britain and so forth. So my non-factors, I have the 10 and the 12 are pretty out of this race. They're not going to be anywhere near. It's a pretty loaded field, 14 horses, plenty of money being spread around, but we are keying in on 3 of the horses here. I have the 1, the 2, and the 5. I'll start out with the 1. It's Great Britain horse. Loves this distance somewhat. Going a little deeper at a mile and 16th. Has been running at a mile recently. Last 3 speed figures very high in very good form. At the end of last year, will be her first 2020 race. She's been down working at Keeneland, so she's been in the state for a while. Decent workouts. A horse to be reckoned with.
Her last mile in the 16th race at a grade 3 level, she won that one, and she's run second or third in each of her last 3 races that were all grade 2 or grade 1s.
Yep.
And she's definitely the class of the field. She's run against all the best horses in this division, the female turf division, and she's always right there with them.
Yep. Keeps the same jockey, so a little consistency there. You know what you're getting. And the 2, kind of a similar situation. Ran a mile and a quarter last race out at Santa Anita in a grade 1 and ran second as the favorite. So you got a grade 1 in here that was a betting favorite in her last race. Coming here to Churchill. Race before that, August, a little bit further back, but was a grade 2 and won mile and 16th race, this distance for this race. Another Brad Cox horse. So the 1 and the 2 definitely locks for this one. Got some breakdown on the 2, Brent.
Yeah, Bo Recall is probably my pick in this race. She just likes to win. It's simple as that. She's won the majority of her most recent races going back to the end of 2018 all through the 2019 season. And she's won 4 out of her last 7. And they've all been quality fields, all stakes races.
And one of them at Churchill.
A couple of them graded as well. So this is my pick in the race. You know, it's interesting because they're both trained. These are probably the 2 top picks, Bo Recall and Juliet Foxtrot, both trained by Brad Cox.
Yep.
You usually don't see a trainer throw 2 of their horses in the same race, especially in a grade 3 type, right? Exactly.
Right.
Unless it's, the Derby or a Breeders' Cup or something like that.
Right.
Where it's a really monumental race. So it's interesting that he's doing that. I'm not exactly sure what the reasoning is behind it. A lot of it could simply be that there just isn't that many spots to race horses recently. A lot of the tracks, postpone their meets and stuff like that. So he's just trying to get both of them ready for the season, and neither of them have run in 2020. So I guess this is a good starting point for them both. They haven't met each other before, Juliet Foxtrot and Bo Recall.
Nope.
But you have to use them both. I think that they're both going to be ready to run.
And another one that we're going to add has run in 2020 4 times, improved her spot in every race, is the 5, La Signare. Am I saying that right?
La Signare.
Signare, French. All right, I got it right. We'll pretend. 20-1 morning line. So here's the one where you're getting a good price. Ran a 1:33 mile on turf her last race out. That is flying. Definitely a horse that I'm going to put on here with some late speed to kind of fluff my ticket out.
Yeah, she's 5 years old, so some horses do develop a little bit later. As a 4-year-old last year, did not have a great campaign by any means. She only placed in 1 race, and that was just an allowance race. So she certainly struggled against the top horses, but come back and has already run in 2 stakes races. Ran 3rd in the last one, in the one before, and then on March 28th, absolutely just ran a hell of a race.
Yep.
And so that's why
133 mile. That's very fast.
Yeah, that's why we like La Signare here.
Yep.
At a big price. If she continues to improve, she would. I mean, if we get through 4 legs of this ticket just to see the Will Pays on the number 5 is worth the price.
Yeah, there'd be something to look at and hope for. All right, so that rounds out our pick 5. I'll go over the numbers one more time, but we do post this to our Twitter at PicksFTSticks. Be sure to follow it. We post replays of the races as they go on and kind of follow the ticket. So in race 7 to kick it off, we have the 2, the 7, and the 8. In race 8, we have the 6, the 7, and the 9. In race 9, we have the 1 and the 8, and then the 13 if it gets put in the field. In the 10th race, we have the 7 and the 10. And in the last race, we have the 1, the 2, and the 5. That sounds like a winner to me, Brent.
I think it's got as good a chance as any.
Yes, sir. So tomorrow, 4 o'clock is when this starts. There's still nothing much to do in the sports world. So turn on your TVG or your Twin Spires app, follow our ticket along, maybe throw a few picks on there, and enjoy some betting for the day.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's not as loaded as last Saturday, but still some quality horses running. So might as well tune in.
Yes, sir. So it's been picks from the sticks. Thanks for watching.